Welcome back to a new video, boys, and like I said, today is going to be a little bit more like our old style, like we used to do with our DIY stuff, showing you a bit more of what I do day in and day out. I'm going to have to do a little bit of that in this Vlogmas because obviously I need to get work done and I can't solely just work on my own car the whole month. That just isn't going to work. The Forester, just to give you an update, is in fab still. It is making some really good progress. As soon as we're getting closer to being back, we'll make that video on it and do an introductory to those of you that have not met our fabrication team. I believe they're just finishing up the intercooler piping at this point in time, so that should be soon. But today's video is going to be really relatable for all of you. So let's say you're doing an engine build and you're doing it yourself, first time on the job. This video is going to be what helps you and gives you some of the tips and guides of what I would go through and check and verify and so forth. Now let's just jump right into this video. I know I talked about in the prior one, but for those of you that have missed that and probably are just coming to this one to see what this video is about, we're going to talk about engines today, and we're going to talk about your Subaru, not an Evo. This is just for decoration in the background right now. So let's say you have WX, STI, Subaru, an Evo, so forth. This will all be kind of relatable. You lost your motor. You're like, all right, now it's time to get a new motor for my car so I can get it back on the road. My personal recommendation, if you have a stock motor in your car, a built motor in your car, or so forth, and you lose a motor, something happens, you know, your ring land failure, your rod knock it, you break a rod, all those scenarios above, I do not recommend putting another stock motor in the car or changing from a built motor to a stock motor to put in your car. I get it. It's definitely not the cheapest thing to replace in the car. Usually happens in the point of when we're not prepared for it at all. That seems to be always with an engine failure, right? So I get it. It is cheaper, obviously, if you wanted to go buy an RA block, which you've been seeing flood the internet saying the RA block is the best block in the world. Put it in your Subaru, never have another problem. That's not the truth. I personally have made power on RA blocks and non-RA blocks, and they still will break if put in a scenario to do so. That's with any engine. Doesn't matter. You can buy my top of the line Stage X, you can buy a billet block. They will still break if you put them in a scenario. Now, that's not what this video is about. This video is about replacing your engine and helping you get going on that project. So that's my recommendation, is to, when you have a motor issue and it fails, put a built engine in the car. Put a properly well-known built engine in the car, not your one out of your buddy's garage or someone on Craigslist, right? Get someone you know that properly builds a motor, or yourself if you feel comfortable enough to build a built motor and put it in the car. Now, yes, those of you, let's say you're saying sub 400 wheel, you want kind of an OEM car, yeah, then there's a point of putting an OEM short block in the car. But if you ever have any future plans or goals to upgrading your engine and upgrading for power, my recommendation is to do it right and put a built engine in the car. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, then why do you guys put so much power on stock blocks? I've already gone into this before, and I'm going to make it real quick. If you have a stock motor in your car and you have parts and you're like, you know, I want to enjoy my parts, let's go ahead and put them on the stock motor with the expectations set by your tuner that they are more easy to break, right? That's the whole point of forged internals, is to add strength for a scenario when it's not a perfect world. And you guys have heard me say that many times. A factory engine will make power and perform if in a perfect world scenario every time. The point of when there isn't a perfect world scenario, it's easier for them to break because they have a cast piston, and two, we don't have forged rods, right? They say they have a forged crank, which their crankshaft is great. We use their crank all the way up to past 1,000 horsepower. But the pistons being cast, they are susceptible to heat. You know, if put in a scenario where they have too much heat, they will break. That's where you hear broken ring lands and so forth. So that is the point of aftermarket internals, is to create strength. They don't create power. They don't give you some unicorn dust. It's just to add strength for when it is not a perfect world, the engine can still survive. So that goes through that. Hopefully that clears all that up. I've put these out multiple times when we are making power on stock motors to set the expectation. Some misinterpret it, or some don't listen to the whole video and they take it and run with it and thinking their RA block can go make 1,000 wheel and live forever. That's just not the reality, boys. So today we are going to be working with a scenario with an RA block this customer chose to put into their 05 STI. Again, the recommendations was set. I recommended a built motor. At the time, he had already bought this motor prior to talking to me. He chose to continue with it with the expectation set that he may have to do a motor in the future if it was mistreated. Not saying that it's going to break right away or it's just going to break when you're driving, but if you mistreat any engine, it will break. That's the expectation I want to set. So now that we got all that out of the way, I think that's really good information to have. I know you guys get tired of hearing me talk all the time. We're going to get straight to work. So I have it down there. I have another OEM block. That's going to be our stage 3. We build motors in-house by me. It's only me here, by the way. I know that's been some misconception online. People think I have some form of an assembly line build motors. No, it is me. I build every single motor that comes in and out of here. Always have. It's never changed. So we have blocks available on our website, guys. They are down in our description. If you'd like to take a look, you definitely can. We have things ranging from stage 1, right, is just an OEM Subaru block. Stage 2 is an OEM Subaru block with drop-in forged pistons. Stage 3, that's when things change. That's my most commonly sold motor. That is going to be a piston rod motor that is blueprinted and assembled by me, and that is the one I usually recommend to customers. Moving up from there, we have our stage 4, which is going to be a closed deck. That is more suitable for, you know, past the 650 wheel region. 600 wheel region is where I would recommend doing that. But yes, we have those available on the website. Like I said, today we're going to be working on the RA block. I'm going to be going through what my steps of preparing and getting the engine build ready and so forth. I got my little junkyard of motors over here, so we're going to grab a stand. Thankfully I already have one there I can grab. We're going to grab his box out of there. We're going to unbox it together. I'm going to show you some things I checked because I have had issues with those things coming in before and shipping, and I put one all the way together to have to pull it back apart and have problems. So I'm going to show you the things that I check and look over in shipping. This will be relatable for any motor out there. Really good things just to check, to verify, so that way you only have to do this once, because there's nothing more frustrating than you finally getting your car back together and you're so excited and you go to turn it on the first time and you have a ginormous oil leak or other issues. So let's get this block out and let's get today started, boys. I got a 5-speed swap going in another Forester. I'm gonna have to move over here. You guys will probably be seeing that on there. I'm gonna be doing that probably this month. The car that came out of is another Forester, and it's getting a full STI drivetrain, so that's what you're seeing right here. Just push to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and move this over to the side, and we're gonna get that block out. All right, so now you got your motor out of your box on the counter here. Things that we're gonna check, you know, obviously for damage, I don't see anything that's really coming out too crazy. It looks like someone tried to pick up here through the sides there, but I don't see anything too crazy. This one had quite a bit of foam. Let's go ahead and get this unboxed and I'll show you exactly what I'm gonna check. Hopefully you guys enjoy that, a little bit more POV stuff. Still learning every day on how to do more of YouTube. Here we have our block. Things to inspect and go over. It's obviously going to be all the mating surfaces to make sure we didn't get any damage in shipping. You know, the main thing that we're going to be worried about is obviously the deck surface for where the cylinder head goes. That one that I talked about that I had an issue with, that I fully assembled, put it in the car, went for first startup, and it was drastically leaking oil right out of here. Now you'd be like, well, what the heck, how would that even be possible? And that's exactly how I felt at that time. you would have never known without physically checking. There was no signs of it, no marks, no damage on the box, but this had gotten damaged at some point, whether it was whoever assembled the thing dropped it in the factory, or B, it got reboxed at some point, because it definitely had damage right to this tab here. And obviously that's our main oil port. So what it was that the head was all the way bolted on, OEM gasket was on, and oil was coming out of here. You could physically move the gasket here back and forth. It wasn't even tight because this had been damaged. So even something as simple as a feeler gauge, I know guys, there is better tools for having checking flat surfaces, right? I'm just doing this for your video purpose, but something to check. If you put your feeler gauge there and look, we will know that this thing is nice and flat. I did this trick on the one that had problems, and you could definitely see an issue. This one obviously is nice and flat, so I checked both sides no matter what. That other side's more problemsome than this side because it's obviously that corner, but checking here, just good reassurance, guys. It doesn't mean that this block is damaged, but the last thing you want to do is put this thing in the car and have all your hard time, work, and money and start it up and have a problem where you're going to tear all the way back down and put another motor in the car. I can't tell you how demotivating that would be, and is, because I've dealt with it, and it was a huge hassle, guys. So just your safe bet is to check. So definitely is something to check like that. We'll flip this thing up on its side here, and then we'll be looking on the bottom. Another thing, guys, for assembly, as you can see, I have more of these foam, is being clean, guys. You have to stay as clean as possible. The last thing is we want this shit going in our motor. I'm going to be thoroughly cleaning that up, obviously, but for right now I'm just going to swipe it over to the side. Other thing is the mounting point for your oil pump. Obviously this is the heart of your engine. If this can't suck oil, you're not going to have an engine that lives very long. So there is an O-ring that goes here. I will later on show that, but this surface is nice, flat, clean. This is the other one you would want to worry about, the oil pump. This does get gasket maker here, so not as big of a concern as something like this that relies on an O-ring, but everything looks good. This block does indeed look good. If you are not going to be assembling your engine for a while and you're going to have it in storage, even though it's in there, try to have it in a climate controlled area or somewhere that doesn't have a lot of moisture. Last thing you want is to open up your new motor and have rust in the cylinders or issues. So if you know you're going to let it sit, it would never be a bad idea to lube up your cylinders, throw some oil in the bottom of it down there, and just make sure your investment is safe. So now that we got this thing here, we already checked, everything looks good. I'm going to grab the engine stand, get that out, get the thing on the engine stand, and then we're going to get laid out here, and I'm going to show you my processes for beginning short block assembly. You would think I would have a better plan about how I put this shit over here. I think everybody can relate. The thing you need is always behind everything else. So let me move some stuff and I'll get that thing pulled out and we will get to assembly. Alright, so now that I got everything laid out here, obviously our short block's on our stand, and then here's what we have today for getting this thing together. I did hear back as I had figured, and my guys over at the cylinder head shop said they're got these heads all finished up, so I have those to put this thing into a complete lawn block, so that might shift our video today. Hopefully I would like to get this thing into a closer done lawn block. I am missing exhaust cam seal, so that is going to be a bit limiting today, but in the end, let's go over some of the things that I personally like to get and I require our customers to get when we're doing these rebuilds that are important. So here I have laid out in front of me. Let's start with the OEM stuff. OEM full engine gasket kit. If you look up this part number, you are going to notice this is for 08 plus. So this does, that's like I said, I need exhaust cam seals because these are dual ABCS, whereas what we're working on is single ABCS. So if you look up that part number, that is what that is, but this is what I had on hand and what was in stock. So this will work outside of those cam seals, which is easy. I can grab those. Brand new OEM oil cooler. There's the part number if you need it. This is going to be for the older years, so 04 to 07 STI. And we have a brand new OEM water pump, also the part number if you need it there. And then we have a set of ARP 625 plus head studs. I do require these anymore. I don't use the ARP 2000s. As you guys have seen, I have found that I feel that factory head bolts are stronger than the ARP 2000s, and I feel like we've done a pretty good job at showing that. So anything that is our build with doing a piston and rod scenario, we're doing ARP 625 plus head studs. We would use an OEM head bolt if I knew the customer was going to keep it under a certain power level, but for the mass majority I just require to do this. So that is the ARP 625 head studs. Again, there's the part number if you need it. Then we have here a set of JE Pro Seals head gaskets. This kind of changes. I could definitely do OEM head gaskets on this, and I have a set here. The reason why I'm doing those is in case the heads have ever been decked. Those are a bit thicker than the factory ones. Those are a 0.039 of an inch. You could get 0.051 inch if you need it, if your heads have been decked multiple times. Why that gets important is because if we put those on with stock head gaskets here and our head has been decked, which obviously I know it has been because I had them rebuilt and decked, so I know how much was taken off, but there's that gray area that as time goes on and these cars get older, excuse me, you don't know, you know, and you could have bought a car that already had a motor done, or you don't know if it had been replaced and they've been decked, and then you run into a scenario where your timing doesn't line up, which leads me over to the next thing. So here IAG makes these great kits. You may or may not have heard me talk about the back order right now on gates. Usually we would use gates, but anymore I've been switching over to the IAG timing kits here. And this one, an example, in most cases anymore, I get the ones that have the adjustable pulleys. Never a bad upgrade, guys. These will save your day if you were to put a factory head gasket on here and the timing was off. This is how you would correct that. Never a bad upgrade. You put these on, worst case you set it to where factory is, that's fine. So like I said, those aren't a bad upgrade. You might as well just get them. They are, I think, about another 200 bucks of an add-on, but it is definitely worth it. So that way you don't get to timing your engine and then you're stuck because you can't, because it's off by time. Next up, this was a rod bearing failure. If you couldn't tell by the oil cooler there, we have some new ABCS gears that have not come in for this build yet, but since it was rod and bearing, this is never a bad upgrade anyways. We got the IAG EJ Competition Series here, so we have oil pan, baffle, pickup, everything ready to go in that box. I'll show you more once we get it out of there, and then we'll get this thing starting to go together, which I'll show you some of the steps here in a moment. I'm just going to get this cleaned off so I have a good working area. Just wanted to show you the parts that I would use that start off here. And ooh, I am missing one important deal that everybody's probably wondering why. Let me come over here and grab brand new OEM, there's part number if you need it, 11mm oil pump. We modify these in-house, so I will be modifying that. But there you go, all OEM parts with the exception of a couple aftermarket parts, and we will have a really nice, reliable setup for that FP Black that's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my area cleaned off that now I just made taken over by boxes, and then I'm going to get the cylinder heads laid out here as soon as I get those here. The wife's being so nice to go grab those, so then once I have those there, then I can actually start putting this thing together. Meantime, I'll probably start with the oil pan and start getting the oil pan on, and then we'll move over to water pump and oil pump to get the front of this engine starting to be together. Normally I like to just do cylinder heads on the short block like this and then move to the other stuff, but since I don't have cylinder heads here, I'm just going to go ahead and continue. It definitely is very important, guys, to have a system down here. I know if it's your first time, you're probably not going to have a system of doing it or know how to do everything at once, but the biggest thing that I can give you for advice is take your time, double and triple check everything. The other thing is ABCS systems on the STIs. Make sure you put all your oil lines on there before you get too far. You know, after you bolt the heads on, just do all the ABCS stuff, because otherwise you'll run into a scenario where you may have to go backwards. So that's my advice for that. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get this cleared off and get started on that oil pan. All right, now we got our short block flipped upside down. What we have here is our IAG oil pan all laid out. Now what I was talking about with the oil pump seal, this is really important, guys. Obviously this is the life and everything of your own motor. The O-ring that goes here is included in the bag. Now that is where I was talking about earlier. So when I ship out motors, I circle this in blue so you know to put the O-ring there and double and triple check. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to have oil pressure and you'll have some catastrophic engine issues. So on here we do have a spacer. You may or may not be able to see in the bag there. So that spacer accommodates this, so it has the extra capacity of 6 quarts. This is what we look at here. Beautiful IAG pan, bottom drain, very, very nice piece. You can put an oil temp sensor in it. And the thing I really do like about these is having the O-ring sealing surface, so no more sealant, less chance of sealant going into your brand new engine and clogging that pickup tube. So definitely 10 out of 10 recommend doing one of these IAG pans. I really do enjoy them. We do have a baffle here that we're going to be putting on, so this will go like so in there, and then bam. Now obviously make sure to torque everything down here, make sure you have all your seals on, and I will show you guys with the pickup tube on there what it looks like so you have an idea. And then it's as simple as put our O-ring in our oil pan, put that on, and we're all done there. Alright, I'm just going to update you guys before I put this other head on. I already got the other side on, going ahead and getting this side together. You can see here I chose to use the JE Pro Seals on here because I know that these heads look like they've been decked before, so I'm trying to eat up some of that with these. 625s are in, and I'm going to put some AirPay lube on them, and then we'll get our cylinder head on, which we just got back from the shop. These things are all brand new, ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get these on, and then that's going to wrap it up for tonight on this long block, and then we'll come back once we get the timing. I do need the cam seals, and since we're going into the weekend, I may not be able to get those until Monday, so we'll see.
fast lane. Hey, living life up in the fast lane. And I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down. Living life up in the fast lane. Pedal to the ground, pedal to the ground, pedal to the ground. Living life up in the fast lane. I ain't struggling with Coronas. I've been working, I need that advance with the bonus. Ain't no thoughts about tomorrow, I'm just living in the moment. Full tank of gas and 200 on the dash, bitch, I'm zoning, fast lane. Living life up in the fast lane. Hey. Living life up in the fast lane. And I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down. Living life up in the fast lane. Pedal to the ground, pedal to the ground, pedal to the ground. Living